as promised, I'm going to do a case video. I'm going to try to stick with case. I might deviate a little bit, so please have some patience with me. I love my knives, and I love many knife companies, including Case. I did 2 videos, Case Now and Then, and I got mixed reviews on that. A lot of people really took it the wrong way, like I'm down on Case or I'm anti-American or whatever. I want to tell you something about me that if another company does something better, whether it's Italian, Chinese, Japanese, I really don't care. I'm going to support that, and I'm going to point out the defects that I see in American companies, and that way the American companies can get some feedback and can improve. We don't improve by just sitting there and buying subpar products. And if I feel an American company is going the wrong direction, I'm going to let them know. I'm really not going to let a Chinese knife company know that they're going in the wrong direction. I'm not going to be like, hey, you really need to fix this. I could really care less. But I do have an invested interest in American companies. I've done videos before on different books that I enjoy reading. And one of the premier books, and this was done by James Parker. And a lot of people, you know, everyone has their opinion about this book. But I'm just going to cut straight to the chase without all the politics. And if you're in the knife community, you know what I'm talking about. If you look on eBay, the knives values match this particular book, Volume 8, almost every time. If I look up a knife and it's worth $300, it's generally going to sell for $300. Granted, when people bid on a knife on eBay, they take into account what type of stag, beautiful handle material, etc., condition. But in general, this book really hits it now head on. And that's, I don't really think that's an arguable point. I mean, it's not even arguable from what I've seen. It almost generally always hits it right on the head. So this is one of my favorite books when it comes to case knives, and I'm just going to read a few paragraphs to you guys. And here we go. Case XX, and these were produced in 1940 to 1964. And this is what's considered the golden age of case. For beautiful knives and all-around quality, Case XX is the best. The variety of bone, colors, genuine stag, and different pulls and different hafting methods make for an exciting collectible. During this period, Case had some cutlers who were outstanding. Many of the Case XX knives produced in 1940 and 1950 have a pure custom look. With over 700 different varieties of Case XX knives, they keep knife collectors on the lookout. They are also priced in an affordable range, and there are a lot of mint specimens available. So, I mean, there's many paragraphs I can read in this book. And this book is basically half Case and half Bulldog knives. And if you're not familiar with Bulldog knives, I might do a video on those. They're also of exceptional quality, but I'm going to stick with Case, like I said. So we'll turn the page here, go to another one. And they go through the values in this book. You know, value, look, $5,000. Look at that. Red Stag, long pull, $5,000. Case is pretty awesome. Can you imagine finding that at a garage sale? Case XX USA. Now, what am I really talking about here? If you contact Case, I'm sure they'll send one of these in the mail. And what this is called is a collector's pocket guide. Okay? And it basically breaks down the construction of the knife, what type of blades they have, and then also the tang stamp. And the tang stamp on a knife, and I really don't want to handle my knives yet, but the tang stamp, I'll explain that later. Basically, depending on what type of tang stamp it has, you can date your knife. It can tell you all kinds of stuff about it. The number, which is also stenciled on the blade, will also tell you what type of handle material, what type of pattern, what type of blades, everything. So the tang stamp on each knife, those numbers and that tang stamp all have a purpose. And this is a collector's card. You can put it in your wallet, and that way you can date any knife that you see which Case has ever made. So we're going through different eras, and we're going from, I started off with what, the 1940s, and now we're going from Case XX USA. So they added a USA to it. In 1965 to 1969, so it's a very short period. Case XX USA knives are some of the hottest knives on the markets. The bone on the USA period knives is some of the prettiest bone ever produced by Case. These antique knives are still readily available in the market. Alright, so they're kind of pricey, I tell you honest, but the 1965 to 69, you're talking anywhere between $40 and $200. You can hit some 500s and 1000s, but in general, you can pick up a nice knife for like 200 bucks. A really nice user for maybe 70 bucks. Alright, let's go to the next one. Case XX USA 10 dot. Okay, so what they did after that is they did the USA, and then they put little dots after the USA. And they subtracted a dot each year thereafter. So in 1970 you'll have 10 dots. In 1971 you'll have 9 dots. Beginning in 1970, a row of 10 dots were placed underneath the Case XX USA. Each year a dot was removed. In the next few pages I'm going to list each year of dots, 10 through 2, and 1 individually. There may be a mistake, blah blah, okay. In 1970s, dotted knives are becoming fewer and fewer in numbers. Collectors have been snatching them up for several years, making them more and more hard to find. Case 70s knives may not be the prettiest bone handles starting in 1973, but are still very collectible. So remember what I told you, certain dates, Case really did make some nice knives, and that's what made them famous. And when I say now and then, when I say, well, this year, or the new knives that are being produced, we could break it down to, the early 90s, the Case knives were really rough. Are they getting better? I think that they're slowly getting better in the last couple of years, but they're still not near where they were before. And you got to understand that Case has been owned by many different companies. Here's an example of that. Case XX USA, 1982 to 1988. Lightning knives. Why they call it that? Because they had lightning symbols underneath the tang stamp. And that's how you would date it. These are some of my least favorite because they really, some of them are nice, but in general you can really get some really junky ones. Case was owned by American Brands until 1988. American Brands was a multi-billion-dollar company with no experience in running a knife company. When they bought W.R. Case & Sons in 1972, there was enough carryover orders and tradition to keep the business profitable for a few years. Even with a new factory and new updated machinery, sales began decreasing and Case began showing heavy losses in early 1980. This trend continued with sales in 1988 being half of what they were in 1979. American Brands took the position that knife buyers would buy what they wanted to make and how they wanted to make it. It did not work. Some of their major coupes were the new grind blades, making commemorative and limited editions in such quantities that some of them even today will not bring a list price. Also, they discontinued the majority of their popular patterns that the old-timers liked. They also ignored the lockback craze of cutlery by refusing to make lockbacks. Remember the buck knives that came out? That's where Buck really dominated the business during this period. American Brands also burned 2 truckloads of great old XX and tested parts and buried enough brand new knives that were production overruns to create a new iron pit. Their corporate policy was, if it had been here over a year, destroy it. W.R. Case became a tax write-off for their corporate books. So you can see where they completely just gutted the business during this period. So defending a company like that, it's, you know, you got to understand that you can knock a company during certain times. W.R. Case has been around for a long time, but it's been owned by many different companies. Currently, it's owned by Zippo. And anybody that collects Zippos can tell me and tell you that Zippos are not made of the same quality as the older ones. So they're getting cheaper and cheaper, and I really don't like that. I've taken many tours of the Case factory, and I'm impressed by their how can I say, the way they can pump out many knives. But you know, it's not really a custom shop anymore. So you can get, they do have a custom shop though, but you're going to pay for that for those knives. Alright, so let's just keep on going. I hope you found that interesting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this part 1, and then we're going to go on to a part 2, which I'm going to basically unveil some of my knives and we will discuss some of them. Alright, and I will just go from there. So this is kind of like my explanation of, so if you understand the history of Case, you can understand what particular years are popular and why. You know, it's nothing against the company, it's just that it's under different management, they've tried different styles. So I hope you enjoyed this series, hope you enjoyed my reading, and y'all take it easy.